Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session. I'm Jeff Carpenter from Exotic Journeys, and thank you so much for joining us today in our special series of webinars focusing on some of the amazing destinations with our great partners that are live from these beautiful destinations and continuing to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Exotic Journeys. Now, before we get into our amazing presentation on South Africa today, just a couple housekeeping notes. First of all, we're going to keep everyone's camera off as well as the lines muted just to avoid any background noise or any interruptions. Second of all, we have both travel consultants as well as some of their clients on this call. So there is a question area. If you hover your mouse over the bottom, you'll see the Q&A box where you can type in any questions that we'll be able to address at the end of the presentation. Depending on the time permitted, we'll try to get to as many questions as possible, or we can take some of these questions offline and direct them to your travel agent as well. Now, make sure you stick around to the very end because I also have some great exclusive offers. Make sure you take advantage of these for joining us on these great presentations. So stick around to the end where I announce all these great offers. With that being said, I'd like to introduce a couple members from our Exotic executive team. We have our director, Christine, as well as our product manager for Africa, Ava. Hi, ladies.
Hi. Thank you, Jeff. And now presenting our guest star, Mr. Glenn McKeag, CEO of Springbok Atlas Tour and Safari, who will be telling us about South Africa today. Glenn, you can start your presentation.
Thank you, guys, and great to be here. Like Eva said, my name is Glenn. I'm based down in Cape Town, South Africa. It is now just after 8 p.m. So good afternoon or good morning if there's some of you still on the morning time zone. And just to let you know, I'm sitting here in shorts and a t-shirt. It's still quite a warm 22 degrees at the moment at 8 p.m. We're having a bit of a late summer before we move into autumn. My company in South Africa is Springbok Atlas, and we've been working with exotic tours for many, many years, and we act as their ground handler in South Africa. I should actually say Southern Africa, because on the next slide, I'm going to explain to you what all compromises Southern Africa. The image on the screen is Table Mountain in Cape Town. That is where I live. This is where I'm born, and this is where I've been involved in tourism for the past 35 plus years. I have not been in any other industry, and this is one industry which they say gets into your bones and you can't leave it. So let me show you a little bit of around South and a bit of Southern Africa. People always ask me what sells South Africa, and over all the years it's been proven again and again that they come here for two main reasons, and there's a third reason as well. But the main reason would be for a safari, to come and experience our wildlife on game drives. And that we found in this area where you can see my cursor, in the Kruger National Park, which is adjacent to the country of Mozambique. We have many other game reserves in the country, but the Kruger National Park being the most well-known park in South Africa, about the size of Israel, if it gives you a good idea of the size of the park. Cape Town, the mother city, which I'm going to show you a little bit about, one of the gateways into South Africa. Johannesburg, the largest gateway in Africa. To our left, we have a country called Namibia, comprising the visit mostly of safaris again in the Etosha National Park, and then your famous desert visit. In the center, Botswana, game drives, and safaris. I'm going to show you a little bit about that country when we get there. More to the east, we've got the country of Zimbabwe, and your visit would be predominantly to visit Victoria Falls or the Wangi National Park. To the north, the country of Zambia, and the main visit there would be the town of Livingstone. And just out of interest, folks, this is the only place in the world where four countries' corners meet. Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana, and they meet at the Victoria Falls on the Zambezi River. To the west is Mozambique. Mozambique, mostly for honeymooners and beach stays. And people say, why Mozambique? Much cheaper than your other island destinations of Mauritius, Seychelles, and the Comores. So this we call Southern Africa. So they come for safaris. Second reason, they would come to the beautiful city of Cape Town and to explore and see the scenic beauty that the country has. And then thirdly, they want to come and meet the cultures of Southern Africa or Africa, and to come and see how we developed into the nation that we are now since 1994, when we had our new government come into play. So that's just to give you an overview of what the area looks like. Cape Town is at the southernmost western point of the African continent. Access, your travel agents will advise you, easy access with KLM direct flights into Cape Town, as well as direct flights into Johannesburg, daily flights. British Airways into Johannesburg, as well as into Cape Town, as well as now we have two North American airlines with direct flights, one with Delta out of Atlanta and then United out of Newark in New Jersey. So I hope that gives you a little bit of perspective of where we are. So Cape Town, also known as the Mother City, the oldest city in South Africa, where the Dutch settlers arrived and settled. This is the view from the top of Table Mountain Cableway. If you look at the lettering above the C and the A, you'll see the Robben Island, where the prison was, where Mandela was incarcerated for plus minus 27 years. The V&A waterfront is down here. And this is the city where people spend the most of their time on a visit. Minimum stay would be 4 nights. In the old days, it was three nights, but there is so much to offer in Cape Town. You definitely want to go up the mountain by cable car. You'll see in the background the cable car. That cable car, out of interest, takes around about 4.5 to 5 minutes to reach the top. It takes 65 people when we're not in a COVID situation where there's full capacity. And the floor rotates once, complete circle, until you get to the top. So everybody gets fantastic views. So Table Mountain by aerial, cable car, a definite must. It is weather dependent, and we do get some strong winds in the months of December and January. A city tour, definite inclusion to see the colonial and the Dutch heritage in the city. A Cape Peninsula tour to go down to the point, and on the Cape Peninsula tour, you will also experience what we call the jackass penguins. I'll talk a little bit about them in the next slide, at Boulders Beach. An African dinner and drumming experience, where you have interactive drumming with professionals, as well as tasting foods of Africa. It's about a 7 or 8 course meal. V&A Waterfront stands for Victoria and Alfred Waterfront, the most visited tourist attraction or area in South Africa because of its size. If you've ever been to Sydney and you've been to Darling Harbour, this is 8 to 10 times larger. And this is where people spend the most of their time in Cape Town. Shopping, of course, with the exchange rate, to give you an idea, it's around about, apologies, I think 10.5 to 11 different, the exchange rate. Cruises in the waterfront, helicopter trips, or as we call them, flips over the mountain and down to the point, also out to the winelands. Food markets, very important to offer the optional township tours. Now in Cape Town, we have the oldest township in South Africa named Langa. And we have there what we call an immersive experience, getting to meet the people on the ground, going into their shacks, going into their houses, meeting the ladies that do the basket weaving, making materials and cloth for sale, and basically the upliftment of the community as well. For the more adventurous, sandboarding, quad biking, cycling in the winelands, I'll explain a little bit better. And then whale watching, we often get inquiries for whale watching, very popular between the months of July through until I'd say mid-November. We get what we call the southern right whale, which comes up from Antarctica and then comes to breed in our warmer waters. Shark cage diving, extremely popular. That's about a 2-hour drive outside of Cape Town with the luck of seeing the great white shark. I have not done it yet. I have observed from the top of a boat. And then, of course, a trip out to Robben Island to go out to the Robben Island Museum and to experience what it was like for Nelson Mandela. You get to go into his cell as well, and hopefully you can interact with an ex-prisoner as well. This is just an image of Cape Point, a very treacherous coastline, and this is where all the Dutch and the Portuguese sailors made their way around to India. a favorite of mine, and I'd say my personal favorite, but to go and visit Boulders Beach. This is close to the Cape Point, and you're guaranteed to see these little animals on the beach, and even better in the afternoon. And the tour is designed that you reach this area in the afternoon because they come out of the water. And you can see on the image how close the people are to the penguins. You are not allowed to touch them or stroke them. And there's big breeding programs going on the beach. This is a view from Robben Island, from the island through back to the city. The trip takes around about 3.5 to 4 hours. The ferry is only about 40 minutes to get across. The only time of the year that it's really difficult to do is in our winter, maybe in the month of October, in August, if the winds and the sea is a bit rough. But like I said, 3.5, 4 hours, a very good experience to go and see what this prison looks like. This is not an Alcatraz, which you have in San Francisco. This is on a much smaller scale, and they've left the island as it is. There were people living on that island as well. So our next area in the Western Cape and in Cape Town is our winelands. Now, some of you might have tasted our wines in Canada. I have seen on my visits to Canada that they are available in your bottle shops. And this is what we're known for, the South African wines. And the wine area is a mere 40 minutes drive out of Cape Town. And it consists of 3 main towns: Stellenbosch, the second oldest town in South Africa; Paarl, the third oldest; and then the town of Franschhoek. Now, the word Franschhoek throws a few people, but it basically means French corner. And this is where the French settlers came to settle and started planting vines. As we know, they are probably the best wine producers, and they taught the Dutch how to produce wine in our country. And there is so much to include in the winelands area. Of course, a winelands tour. You can visit up to 3 wine estates in one day, if you so wish, with a lunch at one of them, and also a cellar tour at one of them. Newly introduced a few years ago is the Franschhoek wine tram, and there's an image in the back. They've now added a double-decker wine tram. You leave your vehicle, you climb on the wine train, and it stops off at various wine estates. And then you're going, it's like a hop on, hop off coming along. Franschhoek's got a motor museum, and then I want to touch on dining, because the town of Franschhoek is the culinary headquarters of South Africa. This is where you find similar Michelin-style restaurants. Dining, artisan crafts, and then Stellenbosch have got many markets as well. And in those towns, you'll find a lot of the Cape Dutch architecture. Now, in this image, you can see the back. This is at a wine estate, and there is the Cape Dutch architecture with a gable. Remember, we were a Dutch colony from 1652. Then the French arrived. Portuguese were long before that, but they didn't settle in our country. So we have a lot of the Cape Dutch architecture until we became a British colony in 1910. Cycling in the winelands. I've done this already. Next time I'm going to do it on an e-bike, because there are quite a few steep hills. As you know, wine is also grown on slopes, but this has become very, very popular, and you taste wine and short distances are different wine estates. The safaris, guys, the biggest reason why anybody comes to South Africa, and like I said on the map, mainly in the Kruger Park area. Now, when we talk about the Kruger Park, we think of a national park. It is a national park. We don't book much of the national park accommodation because that's very 3 or lower star grading. Inside the Kruger Park, they've got some concession areas with 4 and 5 star lodges. And then adjacent to the Kruger Park, you get your private reserves named Sabi Sands Reserve, the Timbavati, the Manyaleti, the Rongwe, Makalali, and they are all joining the Kruger Park. And quite a few years back, they knocked down all the fences between the Kruger Park and the private reserves, so the animals are moving freely. People ask, how long is a stay? I would say a very good stay, minimum stay definitely is 2 nights. People stay up to 3 nights or 4 nights, but then they also move. They stay 2 nights at one in the south, and then we go up to the north. What do we do on the safaris? You want to spot the big 5. Now, that is not guaranteed, but if you're there on a 2 or 3 night, you will possibly see the big 5. What is the big five? Let's get to that slide. The leopard, sorry for hopping around, the lion, the rhinoceros, the elephant, and the buffalo, also known as the 5 most difficult animals to, sorry, I'm going the wrong way, 5 most difficult animals to hunt. It's just an image to see how close you can get to the animals. Some people have been lucky on their first night, they already see the big spot, the big 5. Whatever else you see after that is a bonus. And if your ranger or your tracker is very good, they'll also show you the small 5, which are little animals on the ground. There's one animal I've not seen yet, which is also going to become extinct if we don't stop, is the pangolin. And to be able to spot a pangolin in the wild is very, very lucky. Like I mentioned, the big 5 and the rhinoceros is something which we are, as you know, protecting in a big way. The poaching has decreased dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years. And I think that is just with all the anti-poaching units at the lodges in protecting our rhinoceros. To give you an idea of what a 5-star lodge looks like, that is one suite. This one has a gym at the bottom as well, and you have your own private pool as well on the deck. So this is the top end. This is actually named Lion Sands at Ivory Lodge, and that is 5-star. We book mostly 4 and 5-star lodges, and then depending on the client's budgets, we can do 3-star private lodges as well. So everything depends on the budget. A typical day, there's another lodge. This is Sabi Sabi. I think this is a family unit that they have here. Just getting back to what is a typical day like, passengers would normally arrive after 2 to 3 p.m., check in, bags down. By 4:30, you would meet for cake and tea. Some of them call it high tea because it is really, they lay it all out. And then you'd go out on your game drive with your ranger and your tracker who sits on the front of the vehicle, and you go out to find animals. Around about 7, depending on sunset, they stop for sunset drinks. And this is quite a surprise because some of them, again, layered out big time. And you can have G&Ts or whatever suits you. And they put out little snacks as well. And then after that, they put on the spotlights, and we look for the nocturnal animals. If they're on the hunt and following maybe a pack of dogs or lions on the hunt, they will follow them until they find their kill, and you can return late-ish back to the lodge. The chef is not very happy yet because he's preparing a hell of a dinner for you. And if they come back sometimes 9:30 p.m., you're not in his favor. But a normal game drive would return around about 7:30, 8 o'clock. The next morning, 5:30 or 6:30, depending summer, winter, again, you meet up and you go out for your game drive until around about 9 o'clock. The rest of the day is relaxing at the lodge. You can also do some game drives if you wish. This is just a chill area at one of the public areas for pre-dinner drinks before you go for your dinner in a boma. That is a boma, spelled B-O-M-I. Basically, it means a reed enclosure where the local tribesmen used to, and families kept their animals in the middle and protecting them from the wildlife, like the lions and the leopards. Scenic areas around the Kruger Park, Guard's Window, Bergslag potholes. You can do balloon safaring there, but I would recommend that to the west of Johannesburg rather. And there's some adventure activities in this area as well. Johannesburg, we cannot avoid. It is a gateway city. It is the largest city, and it is our financial hub of South Africa, and there is a lot to offer. It has been sometimes just a stopover to connect to Botswana, to Namibia, to Mozambique, or even maybe to East Africa, Kenya, which is only a 4-hour flight from us, Nairobi. But it's now become a definite one-night stop and sometimes even a 2-night stop. We stay mostly in the areas north of downtown Johannesburg, named Sandton or Rosebank, or we use a lot of the airport hotels at OR Tambo International Airport. Inclusions that we offer here is a tour to Soweto. This is also where Nelson Mandela lived and grew up. Soweto is around about 30 minutes southwest of Johannesburg. It is the largest township in South Africa. I don't like to call it a township. It is a suburb. There's around about 3.5 million people in Soweto. It actually stands for Southwestern Townships. It's not a local Black language. The Apartheid Museum reopening next month. We're very excited about that. Has been closed all along. That's a tour which can take you around about 3 hours, a very moving experience to live through the entire apartheid system since the National Party and the old government came into power and introduced apartheid until the release of Mandela and the 1994 elections. Walking tour of Maboneng, south of Johannesburg. It's a very arts and crafty area. Cradle of Human Mankind and the Sterkfontein Caves. This is a place where you can also have your DNA tested. And in these Sterkfontein Caves, they discovered apparently the oldest human skull on the African continent. Sun City, a name which might sound familiar. This is very famous for its golf courses, for the Gary Player designed golf courses. And then Pilanesberg, only 2.5 hours west of Johannesburg, another national park with the Big Five guaranteed. And of course, Pretoria, one of our other capitals. Just to touch base on that, I say one of our other capitals, South Africa has 3 capitals. Cape Town, which is the administrative capital, Pretoria, which is the judicial capital, and Bloemfontein in the center of country, which is the legislative capital. People often think Johannesburg is the capital city, but that's not the case. Just a little image of the Apartheid Museum and a visit there, the food markets, Cradle of Humankind, and then a visit to Pretoria. This is the Parliament in Pretoria. There's the statue of Nelson Mandela, and that is also where he was inaugurated as the first Black president in South Africa in 1994. We do a drive-by. You do not visit inside the Union buildings, and this is on the hill, so you get a good view of the city. Balloon safaring, like I said, better to the west of Johannesburg than in Sun City or in Cape Town. Now, an add-on to Victoria Falls is an hour and 15-minute flight, sometimes a definite inclusion because it is so close to us. The falls, best time to visit is a question that often comes up. It would say to you from end of Feb through until June. That is when the rainy season has happened up in the northern Angola where the rivers start and the water comes down. So between March and June, of course, best to join with this with Botswana. I'll explain to you. 2-night stay, a good stay because there is quite a lot to do. Sunset cruise, a definite inclusion on the Zambezi River. Guided tour of the falls, that takes you about a 2-hour excursion. They give you ponchos because you can get sopping wet. This is not the Niagara Falls, folks, and I've been to Niagara Falls on 3 occasions, even when it was snowing up there and the water was all iced up. This is something more spectacular. It is the highest falls of all the big falls that are listed. Whitewater rafting for the more adventures, only when it is low water, of course. Flight of Angels is a helicopter flip, and I've done this where you fly over the falls in a helicopter. It's around about a 12 to 15 minute excursion. And then for the more adventurous, maybe for Evo who's online, the Flying Fox or the Gorge Swing over the falls, or the canopy tour, a Boma dinner, very popular in Victoria Falls as well, and then the Livingston Express, which I'll show you an image of. That is a large sunset cruise boat. We have many of them, smaller ones that take only up to 10 or 12 people. But this is wonderful excursion. Drinks are normally included and light snacks, to see the hippos and to see the elephants crossing the Zambezi River and coming back onto land in the evening. The Boma dinner, a very colorful and spectacular experience and very interactive because there is drumming involved as well. And these guys are superb. Food, endless meat types and your wild game or venison from kudu and ostrich to different types of animal. And good for the vegans and the vegetarians as well. We must not forget. Drumming, done this a few times. This is a lot of fun. Each person after the main course gets a drum, and you'll see that rope, piece of dress she's wearing. As the people arrive, each lady and guy gets one of those cloth materials that they put on them. So after the the main course, everybody starts with the interactive drumming, and it's actually a lot of fun. This is the Livingston Express, which is a steam train with a dining car attached to it and a kitchen, and you can have dinner on the famous bridge. That is the bridge which was built that separates Zambia from Zimbabwe, and in the background you can see the Victoria Falls spray. So it's about a 3-hour excursion or outing. Just popping over to Botswana, which is only a 2-hour drive or less through to Kasane. Chobe, the land of the giants, is safaris on the water and on the land. Just remember, the Chobe area in Kasane is the largest congregation of elephant in the world, and you are guaranteed that you'll see them. So safaris on the land, and in the afternoon, safaris on the water. And then getting into the last area, which I want to tell you about, is the Okavango Delta, also in Botswana. This is water-based and land-based safaris. And Botswana, the country, besides the diamonds, which make them a very wealthy country, the main source of income is game drives and the 5-star and 4-star lodges. The access is different getting to these lodges because you'll be flying in a small aircraft from either the town of Kasane or the town of Maun, soft-sided baggage, maximum 20 kilos allowed. You can go on fishing trips, game drives on land, game drives on the water, and in the water, there's 2 options for you. The one is in a mokoro. Mokoro is a local Shona word, which means it is a canoe. In the old days, they used to make their own. They used to dig them out of a tree, or you go on the motorboat safaris. That is just on the Mikoro. I did this till February last year. I was charred by the mosquitoes on my ankles, but a wonderful experience. It is a scary experience, folks, but you have one guy on his own going ahead to check for crocodiles and hippos in the water. And then getting up close with the animals in Botswana. Botswana and the Delta, again, could be a 4-night stay. Some folks do it as a 6-night stay and split it between 2 different lodges, 2 different areas, because Botswana is water-based and land-based. And in the south of Botswana, again, it is desert area. So you have all these different options which you can choose from. So that in a nutshell, and I hope I'm good on timing, is what we can offer to you in Southern Africa and the combinations. We have people that come to South Africa alone. We have people that go to Botswana on their own, people who do South Africa, Botswana, and Victoria Falls. So I think I must hand back to you because I have overdone my time.
Thanks again for the great presentation. Really inspiring images. I know safari is at the top of many people's bucket lists and wish lists, and being able to combine it with some of the surrounding countries, as you mentioned, of course, Victoria Falls, Johannesburg, Cape Town. So the Splendors of South Africa, I'll just mention, is one of the tours that does sell very well for us, encompasses a lot of that. It's a 14-night. Of course, we can customize any type of request as well. So perfect. Well, that's all the time we have. I'll just say, I know there's a lot of excitement with Canadians with the recent announcement today by the government. So hopefully we can send a lot of our Canadians to your beautiful country in the future.
Thank you very much, folks. Yeah, I hope that has inspired you to what we have down at the southern point of Africa. And thank you, Exotic Tours, for your continuous support.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you, Glenn.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.